We spoke at the top of the hour, Holly, about the fact that the government shutdown, having been seemingly ended by the Senate, is now going to the House today, which means the House is back in session, which means that a newly elected House member, Adelita Grijalva of Arizona, will almost certainly have to be sworn in. That swearing in has been held up for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that the House hasn't been in session. But it makes a big difference in another thing that we're talking about, and I want to get to right now, which is this whole Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, whatever.
Debacle.
I mean, let's face it, it's no matter which party you're with, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
And what it could mean for Trump and what it could mean for his administration when information involving him will be released, and how important that is now that that singular Democratic representative is about to be appointed.
Right. So the reason she's like a linchpin here is because they needed 218 members of the House to sign on a discharge petition, which was actually proposed by a Republican, Thomas Massey, saying, look, we need to release these files. And as you mentioned earlier, Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of the ones that signed on as well. There's a couple of other Republicans, but she will be the 218th person, and that is what they need to be able to force a vote on releasing these Epstein files. So what's interesting is she was elected on September 23rd in a special election to replace her father, who was the previous representative. He passed away in March. And her assertion is that she was not being sworn in because the Speaker, Mike Johnson, didn't want these files released. That's her assertion. He says, no, it's just coincidental. And she was able to point to multiple other instances where people were sworn in, even when the House wasn't in session. And anyway, it's going to happen today. And as you mentioned, she feels like she has some things she needs to say to Mike Johnson.
I'm not sure Johnson came out of that looking particularly good, in as much as it was only a matter of time before the government shutdown ended. Whether it was ended or not, the House can't remain in recess. I mean, you've got to get to business, even if there is a government shutdown. Using that as a seeming excuse for keeping the House in recess didn't make a lot of sense, and now he's got to bite the bullet, and she's going to be sworn in probably today. And like you said, I think she's got some words for the Speaker once that occurs.
One of the things I've seen from her on social media is that she actually thanked Speaker Mike Johnson for bringing so much attention to her that she said, basically everybody in the country now knows who I am, right? Otherwise, I would have been like this junior of the most junior members of the House of Representatives, number 433, because you said there's 2 vacancies, right? That nobody would have known anything about, but because just repeatedly over and over and over. In fact, the Arizona Attorney General filed a lawsuit trying to compel Mike Johnson to swear her in, right? Just tons of attention. And so she thanked him for that.
So it's probably no surprise that the timing of this has coincided with the release of some emails by Democrats. And I don't know that I like this particularly either, but we're seeing some emails that have purportedly been released by the Democrats that involve the Epstein clan and Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's right. And the White House hasn't responded to this, but ABC's Jay O'Brien does have some reactions from Republicans.
We haven't heard back yet from the White House on this, but we have heard from Republicans on this committee, the House Oversight Committee. In a statement they just put out, they accused Democrats on this panel who released these files of, quote, carelessly cherry-picking documents to generate, quote, unquote, clickbait. They say they ultimately will release these documents once they go through, redact things like victims' names, etc. And they say, quote, Democrats should stop politicizing this investigation.
I do agree that it was poor
probably
judgment
political
on the part of the Democrats to release those.
Well,
right
look,
now.
We've had this conversation before about this was a whole campaign thing, right? It was a campaign promise from now President Trump that he was going to release all the files, all the Jeffrey Epstein files, all the Martin Luther King files, all the JFK assassination files. Well, he's released 2 of those sets, but not the Epstein files. And in fact, there were a lot of people within the administration now who were saying, yeah, release the files, release the files, release the files. And then all of a sudden there was a turnaround. And now the Republican talking points is like, why are you guys in such a hurry to release these files? But we also know Prince Andrew is now no longer Prince Andrew. He's been stripped of his royal title, of his home where he was living. It's a 30-bedroom home, by the way. And that he now has to fund his own way because of his ties with Epstein's victim, Virginia Giuffre.
And that was no doubt preemptive on the part of the
royal
family
it says
to say,
they know
look,
it's bad.
Right, it's about to come out. This information's about to come out. So I'm looking at some of the particular emails, and Republicans are right. You don't cherry pick. Release what you've got. But there's one here that, and it's there. You kind of have to read between the lines here, obviously. But this is an email between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, dated April 2nd of 2011. So this is a long time ago. Epstein writes, I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. The victim spent, and doesn't name the victim, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. I think that what he's referring to, obviously, is that we don't hear much from Trump. The police chief doesn't look like they've looked into that very well. He's almost seemingly complaining about the fact that particular investigation, that particular person involved, President Trump, had sort of dodged the bullet in terms of the inquiry.
Well, I mean, that's been the assertion for a long time that President Trump is in there. And look, we know that there are pictures of President Trump with young women who were underage. We know that he was showing up in dressing rooms for beauty pageants. I mean, we know those things from the first Trump campaign. So it's just, we'll see what happens when the entire set of files is released. So that's also going to happen today, is that she's going to be sworn in.
Right. And then they'll vote. What did you call it? Where they could get
it's a discharge petition.
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
Well, it's one of the things that you can have on the Hill, right? But this, to have 218 people, actually forces them to have a vote, because they called on Mike Johnson to schedule a vote and he wouldn't do it. And so this is another tool in the toolbox for somebody to try and force a vote. And with the way the House is so close, they got all the Democrats and a handful of Republicans.
So it seems obvious that somebody has these files. This information is there.
The files.
They just can't release them. So, but now somebody has leaked, or whatever, a couple of emails from the files.
Yeah.
Is that what we're looking at? Is that what these are, do you think?
Yeah, they're from the files. And there's other information that has been released. So remember, under former President Biden, they released a number of the Epstein files. It wasn't the entire set, but they did release a number. And then when President Trump was sworn in, they re-released basically the same set of files. And people are like, this is the same thing we already have. We know there's more.
Right. And then probably other people than President Trump, Prince Andrew, that will be embarrassed when these...
Prince Andrew is being subpoenaed, so I don't know how that... I mean, sorry. The Andrew who formerly known as Prince.
Prince Andrew, yeah.
He has been subpoenaed, so we'll see how that goes.